Hey, what's up, Internet land? My name is Dumptruck, and I'm known for talking too much about motorcycles. And so today I'm here on Cycle Source Television and got my buddy Chris Callen on the line, and they partnered up with Dennis Kirk for a motorcycle giveaway. Chris, how you doing, bud?
Hey, what's up, dump truck? How you doing?
Man, I'm so good.
Right on. Winter
Hey,
time.
I got a question for you to get things going off real fast.
Okay.
So, like, this is the first time that Dennis Kirk and Cycle Surf Magazine have teamed up for the garage build. That's also a giveaway. So like, what was the idea that came up? Why did you choose to do this program?
Well, from the beginning, Cycle Source Magazine comes from the whole garage build end of things. The little two-car garages across the country. It's where we started with the magazine. It's where a large majority of our readers are still from today. And when we saw the garage build program and got to know the story behind it, Bob Behan, who's the president of that company, of Dennis Kirk, actually has his own garage build program going on at home. So every winter, Bob goes into his lab and comes out with something cool that he builds every year. And that's really the starting point of garage build, was Bob celebrating what he does in his garage and how Dennis Kirk as a company facilitates that for other people. So it was a no-brainer for us to get involved, helping them out with bike shows here and there. Like, we started doing video interviews with some of the garage builders and talking about what the guys have at home, what their garages are like, what they want to build next. It showed us that, we really wanted to celebrate the culture and the community that was behind all of this. And what a great way, other than to build a bike while everybody's building a bike, in the end, give it away to one of those guys.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So, I mean, the next question is, I mean, maybe not everybody knows why the FXR motorcycle is such a big deal. Why did you decide to go with this platform for the garage build?
Well, especially today, Bob is the first person to say FXR has clout. When you go back into custom building into the 80s even, if you busted out an FXR, it carries its own clout with it. But especially in a time like today, where we're moving into the performance industry so hard, and there's so much going on with the Dynas and FXRs and performance baggers, this is still like those early FXRs are kind of king in that arena. So we had an opportunity through a good buddy of ours to get a nice offer on an early FXR, and grabbed it up so that we could go from the traditional standpoint of ground up, clean everything up, take away the years of abuse, and put it on the street again.
So, is this build gonna end up being one of those hopped up, super flashy, like wild top of the line parts all over it, or is this gonna be something more tangible?
I think definitely more tangible, both on the side of Cycle Source and for Dennis Kirk and the whole garage build program. I mean, obviously, like starting off, we got the alloy art swing arm, which is incredible. The worn amount shocks. Like, there's going to be some parts on here that are top shelf. The Arlen SY spoke wheels that are coming for it are absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, we sort of wanted to take this back to where everybody could do this. So we don't want to use parts that are so much like the whole bike ends up being $50,000 or $60,000, and it's something that the average people can't afford to do. Because I would love to see someone build this exact same motorcycle. So we want to use some stuff that's out of the Dennis Kirk catalog, that's obtainable, that's got a good price point. And we even want to do some stuff like this tank here was a tank that I got at a swap meet once upon a time. It's not necessarily made for FXR, but we're going to put some mounts on it like we do in garages all across the country, and we're going to make it work for this build.
I think that's one of the messages that's not necessarily missing, but needs to always be regular in the motorcycle community, whether you're on sport bikes or choppers or whatever is in between. Is the fact that it doesn't matter that this part wasn't made for this bike. If it's what you want, then you sit down, you look at it, you figure out how to make it work, and you make it yours. And it's I guess you could say, I'm about to knock my computer off of this. I guess you could say it's more of a kind of a chopper mentality. I just like it, so I'm going to make it work. And I think that's something that's really cool. I've done that for quite a bit of my motorcycles, and to kind of you'll be able to expand some people's minds, I think, when you show how simple it is just to do simply what you want, regardless if this was made for that or not.
Well, and that does my heart good too, because no one's more excited probably than me that this whole new culture is emerging. You know, the performance thing has really reinvigorated everything in motorcycling, and I'm stoked about it. You know, BRL and King of the Baggers and all the performance shows that are going on at the big rallies. It's fantastic. But at the same time, I look at some of that, being a blue collar guy myself, I look at some of the cost of those parts, and maybe you could get, as a blue collar guy, you could save up to get one or two of them, but you're not going to get all that stuff on the same motorcycle. Not the regular working guy that's raising a family and, you know, has the whole thing going on. So it's possible to make a cool bike if you put some sweat equity into it, you know, and you'll have a couple of the trick parts, and maybe it's not going to be the big list of everything that's out there like, you know, the next guy's going to have, but this is your motorcycle, you know. I mean, you do you.
Yeah, it's not about the Joneses, you know.
Right.
It's about what you want, not about what homie next door has, you know. Like, and I'm sure what they have is great for them.
Yeah.
So it's like that individuality, and like you can find we could both have FXRs, and they could be completely different, you know. And that's part of the point, like expressing yourself through this iron, and now the performance kick. I mean, everything on the hooligan level in racing has come up big time in the last 5 to 10 years, and now you've got the street
Isn't that
performance
cool?
movements, and it's not just drag racing anymore, you know.
Yep.
It's and like you were saying, it's really like putting an adrenaline shot into our industry, and it's added a whole. I mean, it's brought back like the original version of a good time in motorcycling, and it's also evolved into more versions of it. It's really really interesting. All right, so you were talking about like the big list of stuff and things. Let's talk about your big list for this garage build. What do you already have on the bike currently? You talked about the alloy art swing arm, and I believe you said RWD suspension on the rear. What else do you have going on the bike right now?
Well, in the motor, I have to thank my boy Jason down at Cycle Stop in Lakeland, Florida. Jason took over everything on the motor for us. So we stripped the motor down, cleaned everything up. What needed replaced got replaced, freshened the top end up, went into the transmission, cleaned that up, vapor honed all the cases, and then took all of our stock covers and took them out to a powder coater, so that we're going just like a lot of the guys are doing today. We have a color theme, you know, and our color theme obviously is red, silver, black, and gold, you know, and that's going to work in with the Dennis Kirk colors and the garage build colors into the theme of this bike. But it's a cheaper way to do that, you know. Like I'm not going with a lot of the super high end billet anodized stuff. I would like to, but at the same time, I want to keep this thing grounded, you know. So we're doing a couple of those things. Like we're putting money into the alloy art, pivot block stuff on the swing arm and the motor mounts and stuff. So those are going to be key features that kind of stand out. But you know, stock sheet metal in the back, man, just a stock FXR fender. We got the benefit of an Arlen Ness front fender, which by the time we put that Y-spoke wheel in the front of here, because it's a 3.5 rim, it'll be a nice fat tire up here and fill this fender up real nice. You know, LA Fairing Company got their Diablo fairing up here, coupled with a Harley inverted front end, and we keep wrestling over this. I think it's a Nightster or a Night Train front end, but you know, originally you and I had talked about this. A lot of guys do the either GSXR or, you know, the Hayabusa front end on these, and we were starting to do that with this. But I thought about the nature of this program, and even though you can get those front ends complete with Tokiko brakes for $600 to $1,000, right, on Marketplace and eBay and stuff.
Ready to go.
I got this front end for $400 on Marketplace, and it's Harley, so I don't have to machine my own stem or anything, right?
Yeah, and it's cool because like you can have that, you know, more, I guess you could say more modern of suspension technology up front and still have the brand going all the way through. Like I've got, you know, Takiko brakes on my Road King, you know, I think I just lost 9 friends when I said that, but it's, you know, it's one of those things where if you have it available to keep it in the same family, I would most likely have done the same thing. I've been like, well, if I can get this for X number of dollars instead of that, and it still stays true to the brand. And yeah, that's just a win. How long did you look for that front end? That sounds like something that you can't come across too much.
You know, I actually went through two GSXR front ends first, and one of them's hanging on the wall here. But the first one had a bent leg, and that was like, you got to be careful when you're buying that stuff. Like, sometimes you lose on it. But the second one was good, and I had it up here, and Heather was scrolling through Facebook Marketplace, and she came up with this front end, and I was like, you know what? I have another FXR project coming up. I can keep that GSXR front end for. This was just too perfect, you know?
Well, that's awesome. I love how that works out. Do you have any other like kind of special ideas that you know aren't going to be easy to find necessarily from a catalog? Do you have any hunting you expect to do?
Not too much. I mean, you know, everybody has the complications today with the supply chain, you know, so the only thing I'll tell people that are
Sure.
out there building right now is look early. Don't wait till the last minute to get your stuff. You know, stupid stuff like well nuts. Inside of these covers, the way this whole compartment is put together is with like 24 well nuts, you know. You can get those at the local hardware store once you figure out what they are and go and get them. But to try to find them through the aftermarket companies, because of the supply chain thing, you may not be able to get them. Here's something I do want to talk
Yeah,
about.
you know, that's actually,
I'm sorry.
before you move on from that, that's a really important note for people that are out there purchasing and building your own stuff and doing your thing. Remember that whenever you're purchasing most of these products, that there's a small business involved. That small business
Amen.
is responsible to a supply chain, regardless of the reason that it's slower than normal. The fact is, it's slower than normal. So be kind to the people that are helping you build your dreams and communicate as much as you want. Have some manners and be grateful that you have the choice to buy parts and build a motorcycle with. Like,
And, you
not
know,
everybody can just make that choice and go online and click. So
it's real easy
keep
today
that
with
smile on
social
your face
media
and
to pretend that's not a real person
is.
on the other end, you know, and they are.
And it absolutely, I've been on the other end. You know, we've all been on the other end. And it's like, you know, you can only do so much until the stuff just shows up. So, you know, everyone wants you to build your dreams. Just don't make it a nightmare in the process.
Sorry, I had to turn my furnace in the garage off. It's cold here. So-
It's not here. I'm in New Orleans. It wants to be cold, but it doesn't really know how.
This is one of the things that'll drive you nuts. In the performance thing today, everybody wants to use these super high-end 12-point fasteners. And if I was
Yeah.
given an unlimited budget, I would too. They're cool. They work better than regular fasteners. They're badass. But there's nothing saying that you have to do this. You know, one of the things that we try to do, no matter what fasteners you're going to use, try to keep a theme the whole way through it. That's part of what keeps the motorcycle looking clean and correct. If you have, you know, socket heads here and a square head up here and pan heads down here, like that, everything starts to get chaotic. But
I think that's one of the reasons people like those 12 points so much is because they usually end up replacing all existing hardware with it.
yeah,
And if you did that with any kind of hardware head, you'd get the same kind of clean look, just with a different fastener. I mean, I also love those 12 points, but I mean, you have to have a whole other budget just to do that to your whole motorcycle, and it's, you know, it's not
well, and
necessary.
it
Is
depends
gorgeous.
too. Like
And
here's
they do work better, but you can do it with other stuff.
here's what I think the proposition is really. I can't get this 12-point stainless hardware at Ace Hardware down the street from me. And for a garage guy, I don't need, you know, a whole bin of all the different sizes. I need 4 5/16, 2 3/8, you know what I mean? So I make those
Right.
trips back and forth to the hardware store, and I end up spending as much money because a chrome socket head at Ace Hardware I think is just as much as as ARP hardware, you know, but doing it one piece at a time like a garage guy does, it's a better alternative.
Yeah, for sure. Ooh, don't die.
You know? Yeah, right. That's that Pittsburgh winter. So this is one of my things.
So,
You know, I set out way early on saying I was going to do as much as I could from the catalog and try to keep it simple and not get overloaded with, you know, high-end handmade stuff. But other than every once in a while, the chopper guys' side covers will come available, and then somebody grabs them up. Steve Chamberlain makes a nice set of these, but other than that, the aftermarket doesn't have a really nice set of side covers for FXR. So we set out our original plan was to hand make a set of these and take everybody through the process of making them. So if you have a limited amount of tools, it's not super hard. I thought it was worth taking people through the steps. The cool thing is, I learned something new doing this. This is a thing called EVA foam. I learned about this from my daughter who does cosplay. And this foam helped us make a three-dimensional model of the inset where those covers go. So after the model, I had a more perfect paper template, and then I was able to take my flat piece and see how that dimension was needed to go, you know, so I could work my shrinker stretcher and I could get the right lines right off of the bat. So
that is really. Did you think 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, that you'd be using the phone to do something like that?
Dude, listen, I tease my daughter so much about cosplay. So like, I can just imagine for the rest of my life, she's going to be giving me the business now, because cosplay taught me something for choppers, you know?
Cosplay saved the FXR. That's just what happened here today, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Chris, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Couple comments for you. Dan Duggan from Ireland says it looks great. He really likes the lines on it.
Right on.
Kevin Baxter said it's looking good. He uses the 12 points all the time. Not cheap, but they look great. And Tim Kearns wants to know if you have a seat and handlebars in mind yet.
Well, the handlebars are already on it. I have some Vortex clip-ons. Lucky enough to find 50 millimeter, or excuse me, these were 52 millimeter. So what we're going to do, we have some Performance Machine contour cut controls coming for this, and we're going to trim these up as short as we can to keep it nice and tight. But that's the handlebars already. And the seat, I mean, obviously you got to give it up to the king. We're going with the Saddleman step up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have on my FXR, and I've been all over the place on it, and it's never done me wrong. It's going to look really nice and clean.
Yeah, and you can't beat it. I mean,
awesome.
A good seat that keeps you in the pocket, you know, especially when you want to haul ass.
Absolutely. When you can dig in and use that as another push point to really like keep you in a certain position in the saddle, especially when you're trying to jump over from one side to the next and you got something you can actually lean into, it changes everything.
Right on.
Sliding off a seat is a bad way to go fast.
Whiskey throttle, isn't that what we called that?
So what do you? Yeah, absolutely. You're like, what happened? I don't know. So what is coming up next for the bike right now? Look, you got the empty chest. Is the bike coming back from the motor coming back from powder coat here soon, or what's the word?
Actually, Jason and his guys are putting the motor together in Florida. Once we get paint and everything done with this here, we're going to go to Lakeland, and the last part of final assembly will happen there right before we pull into bike week. So my job right now,
make you sweat at all.
yeah, and it's crazy. Like, you know, even something, you know how the stock FXR brake master cylinder was a remote reservoir. Well, I'm trying to make a place where, you know, I can get a more modern cylinder with the reservoir on it. So I had to pull out this other transmission that I have and, you know, cut off the mount and figure out where it needs to go. Little stuff like that. But I feel like those are the things that every guy can do. Every guy can take some metal and move things around and make some small changes. Every girl too.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, and like you come up with those little ideas when you do the one thing you do the most when you're building anything. And that's sit and stare at it.
Dude.
And that's when you usually start to figure out, oh, well, I could do this little, well, I could do that little. If you don't sit and stare at your machine, you're missing out on some stuff you're not doing.
I have a rolling office chair, most important tool in the shop. and I say this all the time, people probably get tired of me saying it, but literally a half an hour every day that I work in the shop, the last half hour is me sitting in that office chair and just looking at the bike. Because your eyes won't lie to you. If you look at something and you go, man, that's just not right, get up right then and cut it off, throw it away, like just change it, because your eyes are not lying. The same thing you're seeing when you look at that, someone else is going to see too.
So let's talk about, that's an amazing piece of advice, which leads me to the next piece of advice I want to hear from you is, I'm dump truck. I know enough to put myself in a lot of trouble. I'm getting ready to build this FXR. Where do I really start? Like with the planning process? Like what can you tell someone at home if you want to get started? There's this. If you already have a blog or some materials that exist with that information in it, it'd be a good time to plug that too.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff. I mean, we do our best with Grease and Gears TV, with, Shop Talk on Sundays, Torque on Thursdays, the CycleSource World Report at cyclesource.com. We put all of our tech articles and fab articles from the magazine on there. But the biggest thing is have somebody that you can ask questions to. What I ran into right off the bat, I'll tell you about working on these older FXRs. A lot of the things that you'll want to do to them that are the new parts for today are not going to be applicable to this bike. So you have to find ways to either find alternatives or find alternative ways to use the parts from the new bikes on older models, because the industry, and rightfully so, for the amount of customers and bikes and everything that are out there, they're catering to the new bikes. There's not as much for these. Sure. Like even the wheels, getting a set of Arlen Ness Y-spoke wheels for this, I had to give up on what exact size of wheels I wanted, and I had to go with something that would work that they make.
Right. It's good to be able to do that. I've always been really lucky to have a few people that don't mind whenever their phone rings because Dumpy's in trouble. And 9 times out of 10, they're able to walk me through whatever it is. Yeah. That one other time, I just start paying my friends to fix what I broke.
Well, and
But
man,
usually you can knock it out if you've got a good mentor of sorts.
This is the big thing about it. You said earlier about not forgetting the part of this that's fun. There's a whole other side of this that I feel like some of the younger people in the industry today and in the community, they forget about this part right here. I have more fun out in this shop. 1 or 2 of my guys will stop by, or if it's just me and Heather out here for a whole night, this is where part of the fun of all of this comes from. Sitting here and having a dream about the perfect motorcycle. That's where you actually start. You start with the dream of the perfect motorcycle. What is your perfect motorcycle?
You romantic dog, you. That is though. There's romance in that process. That's exactly what it is. You're sitting here going, you're dreaming. It's like you've got 2 kitchens in your house when you have a good garage. Everyone wants to hang out in either room or both because you're cooking something good that's going to feed your future. And I'm really excited to see this FXR build come together. I think it's going to be really cool and a little stressful the way it's going to come together at the end, which will make for really good TV. So you guys getting that bike down there pretty much fully customized, slam the motor, do the plumbing, do the wiring, and go show it off. And eventually it's going to be given away at Iron Horse Saloon at Sturgis. Yeah. You don't have to be present to win, y'all. So make sure you go to the website. I believe it is DennisKirk.com/garage build. You'll see the contest there. Enter to win this motorcycle. Keep following CycleSource on all the platforms. Same thing with Dennis Kirk. Same thing with Dump Truck. If you type in Dump Truck as one word, I'll pop up all over the place. It might get weird. It's almost guaranteed. It will be fun though.
And listen,
make sure you're
Truck.
part of the program. And another thing about the Garage Build program is everyone that's out there who is building at home, you can submit some of your photos and videos of the build that's happening right there through that same website, DennisKirk.com/garage build. And if Dennis Kirk digs what you're doing, they might throw it up on the interwebs. And if CycleSource digs what you're doing, they might do the same, and maybe even a feature is what I'm hearing. So check it out. It's not just for winning. It's also for showcasing your own work. And you got a whole community of people you can ask for help on when you do stuff like that. Chris?
Yeah. I wanted to say, man, I appreciate you signing on to this and helping us get the word out, because that community that you're talking about, those are our people. You know, when popularity wanes and the trends go away, those are the guys that live, eat, and breathe garage culture. You know, so that's why we're involved with this. You helping us get that message out to more people means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
Oh man, to be able to put our names next to each other makes my chest stick out so much. I appreciate y'all. Y'all, and others like you are a big reason why, things don't get forgotten. They're a big reason why people can actually go in their garage and build their dream, like we were talking about earlier. So you keep doing what you're doing, and I'll be your megaphone, baby.
Right on. Thank you, man. Hey, and tell everybody
Hell yeah,
too, we're taking this thing to Daytona Bike Week, straight from there to the Donnie Smith Show, straight from there to Texas Fandango, and straight from there to Arizona Bike Week.
Whew.
So it's on tour.
That's awesome. So y'all going to be throwing that in the trailer and hitting the road?
Yep.
Well, I guess we should probably hang out then.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So when do you expect your next update on the bike build to be coming up so people know when to log in next time?
Well, we have regular updates hitting the internet and social media, but let's why don't you and me have a garage visit again in like a week?
I love that story. More hanging out with you doesn't make me cry in public or anything, so I'm down.
All right, man. Well, thanks for stopping by
All right,
today,
buddy. Well, it's good
Dumptruck.
catching up with you. Hell yeah. Thank you for showing everybody the build. I'm excited to keep catching up.
Yes, sir. I'm excited to see how it goes.
You should be.